What's going on, everyone? It's Semp. Welcome back to the channel. Here's my preview video for the Loki finale, discussing all the Easter eggs for Kang the Conqueror's debut and how this could eventually lead up to a season 2 for King Loki as well. Kang's character is definitely one with a lot of depth, so let's get right into the video. Let's go. Episode 5 of Loki introduced us to the Void, a place near the end of time where all things that are pruned go to, because as in real life and in the MCU, matter cannot be fully destroyed. However, once it does end up here, an entity called Alioth reigns over everything and devours it like ordinary food. On the surface level, Alioth does just seem to be like another ordinary villain in the MCU, but he's actually a temporal being. He resides within this place of time and space called Limbo. Limbo is a place set outside of time, is essentially a pocket universe, and to those within Limbo, it does appear like a planet. If we look at this shot from the trailer or the last shot in episode 5, Loki and Sylvie are entering what appears to be Limbo. Limbo is ruled by Immortus, who is a variant of Kang the Conqueror, and it's the version that I believe we will see in episode 6 of Loki. Kang has many different versions, and each version of himself controls a period of time. It goes way deeper, and there's all types of variants like I said, but for this video's sake and time, I'll dumb it down a bit. Let me know if you would like to see a full Kang the Conqueror history video though in the comments. I'd definitely be down to do one. Anyway though, another version of Kang, Rama-Tut, took form when Kang wanted to be less a part of his empire battles as he was conquering. He resided in ancient Egypt with a version of Ravonna Renslayer. He also eventually returned to the modern day to stop the Immortus version of himself, but it didn't really work out as planned. The Timekeepers intervened and accidentally diverged the existence of both, creating two separate entities, one being Rama-Tut and one being Immortus, but two completely separate people. Eventually, this version of Rama-Tut will begin seeking his destiny that he didn't want to become, and found a way to achieve immortality. He began studying the realm of Limbo, and learned that it was a timeless place where he could live forever. Rama-Tut eventually does decide to retire there, and he just learns the mastery of time. It's also why we might see that Kid Loki hasn't aged, because the Void is also a part of this Limbo time. Reaching the barrier into Limbo, Rama-Tut later reinvented himself as Immortus because of his immortality, and began following his destiny. In episode 5, we also see the statue of a Sphinx. The Sphinx is a huge Kang Easter egg because Kang built his own time machine in the form of one, and that's what he used to start time traveling. So what does this mean? Alioth was a barrier between Immortus and Limbo in the comics, and the regular constraints of time, and as we saw in Loki, that barrier had been breached. I do 100% truly believe that Kang the Conqueror, or as I suspect Immortus, is the one in the castle that resides in Limbo. This would also make sense that he's hiding and framed the TVA into thinking the Timekeepers were real, because at one point they probably were, but Immortus eventually took over and controlled all of the branches so that the only outcome could be Kang's empire on top, and so anybody who tried to break that was pruned. I also think Immortus is going to be extremely old and withered. Similar to the combination of Sylvie's character being Lady Loki and Enchantress, Immortus could be an amalgamation of Immortus and He Who Remains. He Who Remains was the final director of the TVA in the last reality of the multiverse. He created the Timekeepers kind of like what we saw in Loki, albeit them being fake, but the similarities here are very similar. And I completely understand if you think this is another WandaVision Mephisto theory, but it's really not. Fan theories led us to Mephisto. This story is actually giving us Kang the Conqueror references, including Ravonna, who is a major character to Kang and a common love interest. Other Easter eggs in the episode show what appears to be the Avengers towers, but on it is actually Kang, which is a reference to the Kang empires in the comics. In Marvel Comics, Kang Enterprises is the company Tony Stark sold the Avengers tower to, but most intriguingly, the company was actually owned under the alias of Mr. Griffin, or Nathaniel Richards, better known as, guess who? Kang the Conqueror. Nathaniel Richards is the main name for Kang, and although not truly 100% confirmed in the comics, he does appear to be a descendant of Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four. Now, not to mention Kang already being confirmed for Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, there's huge hints because the middle Timekeeper statue looking exactly like the Kang actor Jonathan Majors, and there's even costume designers listed on the Loki IMDb page for Mr. Majors. There's been rumors of how Loki will impact the MCU, considering the first two shows didn't really have a whole lot of universe building. However, Kevin Feige himself did say that Loki will have more of an impact than the other two shows so far on the universe as a whole. Using this version of Kang, Immortus will introduce us to the idea of the character, but most likely not what we will see in Quantumania. And as I assume, it will be the real version of Kang within his city in Chronopolis that is currently somewhere located in the Quantum Realm, hence the Quantumania title. Now, the other theory people have is that we will see a superior Loki, one who has taken over and ended up controlling the TVA, as this version of Loki said he originally wanted to do as well. It is most definitely a possibility, and one that I guess I could see happening, but honestly I don't think this is the case with everything going on with the Kang Easter eggs. Now, it is possible, however, that Immortus is using another version of a Loki, or a superior Loki, as they have mentioned many times in the show, as a pawn. That could be what we see from this King Loki shot, which appears to be on the throne of Asgard, but I think this clip can mean three things. Number one, this is the big bad of the show, and superior Loki did take control of the TVA, which would be honestly really lame in my opinion. Number two, this is Immortus showing a timeline where he ruled, almost like the flashback glimpses that we got of DB Cooper or President Loki being another variant type of story. This is a really strong possibility. Or for number three, as Loki and Sylvie discussed in episode 5, maybe they are given a bargain by Immortus or end up fleeing to a timeline where they rule over Asgard, which is my second best guess, but I do think that it's going to end up leading into a season 2. There have been tons of reports indicating season 2 of Loki is coming. We don't know how or what, but with Ravonna being a huge tie to Kang, this could leave the door open for a return of Immortus, or Ravonna learning all the truths behind the TVA. This could further her agenda of wanting order, or season 2 could also focus on her finding out who Kang truly is or meeting up with him. It seems like a tall task to take down the entire TVA in this last episode, so if Loki does become King Loki and he tries out ruling in a different timeline, soon after, like Mobius mentioned, then what would happen? I think Loki could become bored and he'll dip back into the chaos, which could be a season 2. There's a ton of information and Easter eggs regarding the Loki series and general backstory through Kang, but I just wanted to get down to the basics. Like I said, let me know your thoughts on this in the comments, and if you want a full Kang background story. Drop a like if you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel if you like Marvel, the MCU, comics, and everything in between, and stick around to check out my video for how Loki sets with the Spider-Verse and No Way Home, and a breakdown for all the No Way Home suits last week, including a Doctor Strange magic integration suit. Other than that though, I just want to say thank you. I'm another Marvel guy, and I'll catch you on the blip.